Hey, what's going on, everybody? You're listening to the SANE Show, the show about nothing and everything. I'm your host, Cliff, and today I have a special guest with us. I have the founder of Hoops India and entrepreneur, Neel Pahlajani. How are you doing this morning, Neel?
Good, Cliff. What's going on?
Good, good. Glad to have you on the show. I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come on the SANE Show as well. So I'm super excited to have you on and super excited to have the conversation that we're going to have today as well. Really quick, before I introduce the topics, I want to take and shout out all the social media followers and all of our listeners across all platforms. Thank you guys. I love you guys. Thank you guys for continuing to like, share, and subscribe and follow the SANE Show. Really means a lot in continuing to spread the word. And that's everybody in all 60 plus countries. And if you're listening and you don't already follow us, be sure to check us out on Instagram and Twitter at the SANE_show. Again, SANE_show, SANE_show on Instagram and Twitter. And then you can find us on Facebook, The SANE Show. Again, on Facebook, that's The SANE Show. So today we're going to have a conversation about globalization of sports. And then we're going to have a conversation about India and market potential. Following that conversation, we're going to have an interview with Neel so that I can ask you some questions so that the listeners can learn more about the things that you've done and about you as well and all the fun and exciting things that go along with that. So let's go ahead and hop right into it with our first topic, the globalization of sports. Neel, in our first conversation that we had, like you really opened my mind, I'll be honest with you. And I'll go ahead and tell the listeners that I actually changed the topic. I was going to originally talk about American sports abroad, but wanted to focus on the globalization of sports, honestly, because, as I was doing my research and preparing for this conversation, and, one for me, wanting to step out of this, not really focus on America, one, but again, focus on the globalization of sports. And, I learned so much, especially learning that, following, World War II, all of these different sports that we know and love now begin to rapidly expand across the globe. Sports like soccer, volleyball, baseball, golf, tennis, all of them, and becoming, globally accepted and being very popular. Obviously, a lot of these are games that we see being played in the Olympics. One, I want to say that there's pros and cons to it. Obviously, in the conversation that you and I were just having, just talking about, how larger, more developed countries, so like Canada and then the countries in Europe and then some countries in Asia are really the beneficiaries of the globalization of sports because of them being their countries being more developed, having the infrastructure, having the money, and being able to recruit from countries that may not have that same thing and being able to take these athletes from smaller countries or countries that may not be as developed and put them on a global scale. And so really just wanting to have a conversation with you and get your thoughts on as far as like the globalization of sports and developed countries, how they're benefiting, and then also countries that may not benefit as much. So if you could just go ahead and share your thoughts, Neel, as far as the globalization of sports.
Yeah. So, I think there's this thing about maybe finding players, let's say in India, to play in the NBA or in professional league here. And with a billion population, half a billion under the age of 30, it's just like sitting here. Why isn't there an Indian guy in the NBA, like a guy from India? I mean, they're not all that short. That like some of them can jump. There's a lot of people there. There must be some people like so. Part of me at least going there was just exploring that. Why not? Like why isn't there? Like why are there people from all like 40 plus countries and whatnot playing in the NBA, but not India, like where there's 1/5 of the population? So I think that was kind of the part of the reason of going to India and starting this kind of movement for Hoops India to explore that. But then going there, realizing that in India, the NBA is like a legal organization. There's a very documented way of spreading their brand, and it's very protected, and it should be. And the value really in India, then quickly realizing it's not about bringing somebody to the NBA. I mean, that will happen organically, I think, but the value of basketball is there. And I think taking that and one model of this like street ball, like it doesn't have to be in a gym because there aren't that many gyms. It does like when people are playing basketball, people are playing cricket on the basketball courts in India. So it's not like it can follow the same formula that it follows here and be promoted in the same way and get excited. But there's still value to sports, and that like and market like the lifestyle, the merch, the NBA 2Ks and the events that go around a basketball, and that's that's definitely there in terms of being able to market it, but not necessarily in the same way. Like I kind of realized quickly that the value in India is like it's bringing communities together. Like people from the Ambani school could play with people in IC Colony, where they never played, never kind of, the kids at least, they don't interact on any sort of equal platform at all. Like there's such a divide. But if you're the best player on the court, I mean, which we saw, it's like then you're the captain, then now you're friends, and now you're the leader, and it doesn't matter what's, if you're from the slum or you're the daughter of a or son of a Bollywood actor. It's like everybody is one ball, and like we just mix it up, and it's one of the only ways that people can do that in India, and then the performance speaks. So I think like having the workshops, having the camps, showing the athleticism. I mean, in India, they have this thing called the monsoon league where they're just playing basketball in the rain. It's like inches of rain outdoors. This Indian Hindu community and this Muslim community in Nagpur neighborhood are playing for like a week in March every year. There's a monsoon league. I mean, it's intense basketball. It's like they're fighting for like generations of like, just, there's always been this thing, India, Pakistan. And so it's non-violent, but very intense. And it means so much more than basketball. It's the most important match when those two countries play, because it's like Yankees, Red Sox kind of thing. Doesn't matter what you do against the other teams. And it just means like, it just represents so much more. And as basketball is just one way to do it, is competition where you can just get to know each other. It's a communication method. It's like a networking, all that stuff. It just means something different than just bringing somebody to play in the NBA, like, finding a Yao Ming of India. That's how like CNN described, like, oh, Hoops India is out here around India doing these tournaments, trying to find the Yao Ming from India. And I think that's a good message, but for a larger scale, but really what's happening, like most of us can't jump, like, but we still want to, wear the Jordans, and we still want to play. And we there's a lifestyle, there's fitness, there's networking, all that happens on a court, and it means more in some of these places where people are not interacting or don't have the opportunity to interact on other platforms in an equal way. So
you said, you touched on something earlier too that really stood out to me, as far as being able to, that other countries should be able to take the same formula but not really take the how I look at it is like, take the same formula but not have to take the identity. So say like if the NBA spreading the NBA, trying to spread basketball, okay, you can spread basketball but you don't have to spread the NBA. You see what I'm getting at? Like the
yeah.
format, yes, but not the league, not the brand. So if you could,
and not even the format sometimes. Like what I found works is like not this 5-on-5 format, because there's a different. I don't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
Yeah, no, but I was just saying like the format is a big thing, because basketball is one thing, but 5-on-5 is another thing. So I remember being in meeting in the embassy with AC Green there, and it's like an NBA welcoming. I mean, the India welcoming the NBA delegation, right, to India to promote whatever the NBA was promoting at that time, and they would bring like a player every time, and did the time like one of the times was AC Green, and I remember like I was gonna meet AC Green, and I was like looking him up and what he's done, and like one of the things that he did was this thing called 3BA, which is full court 3-on-3. And I was like, this is perfect, right? Like we should bring the 3BA to India, because, there's an athleticism, there's like a different game that you play when it's 3-on-3 that's less about all the plays and the team defense and stuff like that. people just want to play maybe competitively, and they're good enough to dunk and they're good enough to like to do those things, but maybe they can't play in the same format. So, and we talked for the whole night like just about that kind of format, and you see it today. Like India is doing more of that, not necessarily the same format as like the NBA basketball here. And I don't know how comfortable the NBA is with that. Like you see like the big three here, it's not like something the NBA is excited about. I mean, they're not going to India to promote full court 3-on-3, but it's what in India maybe like that's what people like, that's what works, that's what's exciting. They just maybe showcasing their dunking and their athletic ability, you know, or I mean, I just love like the way my favorite thing about this whole experience has been seeing how people in India make it their own. The slang they use, the way they jump over their motorbikes and like you know wear their chappals and dunk it and spit out pan on the backboard and do these amazing things that are just that can only be done in India, and like it's still basketball though, so you really see kind of just the way that the sport is kind of like it's the foundation, but then you have to you have to see what works for that community, and I think it should be done in almost any industry really. I mean, you should customize. I mean, there's a brand that you want to maintain, right? That's the whole idea of like spreading a brand, is that it's standardized, so you know what to expect. At the same time, it's not the agenda. It was not my agenda to promote the NBA in India. It was more like is basketball could benefit like communities and the youth and something that I could do too. Like you know, one guy could go like move the needle on this popular sport in a populated country. Like that's a low barrier of entry, is very low actually. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a like all around. It's not just like me doing something for them. I think that they like going there and doing this was huge for me. So yeah, I really learned a lot just from that. Like you can't just go somewhere with your like here's how you do it. It's like here's an idea, let's build, you know, and let's customize it.
All right, we're back. So now we're going to really take a deep dive into India, wanting to have a conversation with you, Neel, about India and market potential. So, you know, again, really want to take and focus on India as a market in general, not just in sports, but in entertainment and in film and music. Just thinking back to the conversation that we had previously and how you really opened my eyes, especially, you know, talking about how the caste system is still in effect and how it still largely affects how people communicate with each other or interact with each other, better yet, there within India. And correct me if I'm wrong. I just got this idea that, like, you know, because again, I'm thinking about it as like India is this large country. Obviously, you know, what people associate with large countries is resources, right? Or at least money. Having something like not necessarily saying, you know, it has to be one of the richest countries, but it has some money, especially when you have you know, one of the largest populations in the world. So it just kind of behooved me, honestly, when you talked to me about how certain things might not take off, I guess is where I'm getting at in India because of how the market is. And if you could just, you know, I want you to kind of speak on that and also enlighten the listeners more on that when it comes to India and its market potential.
Yeah, I mean that's everything. Everybody always talks about the numbers in India, like a billion people and like half a billion under the age of 30, and you know, so these are all these people who are you know now getting information from wherever you know like are able to watch gain you know content from all around the world. They're able to see the lifestyle, the culture that's associated with things. They can shop in any market you know online and communicate and learn in different ways. So as that kind of exposed, people's curiosity grows, and so people always talk about like the numbers, like if you can capture this percentage. But I'm part of a charity called Children's Hope India. The motto is every child counts, and it's like yeah that there's a billion you know people there, but everybody is just doesn't like everybody is still a person. It's hard to I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say with that, but I feel like that each person is going to take from a sport what they can, and we're not all going to play professionally or anything like that, but can we open up opportunities to travel, for education? From the actual business side, can sports be a platform to kind of provide other, whether it's product, service, or just value in the community for those communities? Can they bring people together? Can they promote fitness? I mean, India has money. Like they spend, it's the best cricket league in the world. The best cricket players come to India to play. People watch cricket. It's 10 times more than people watch the Super Bowl, on a regular match. So, I mean, it's a very, very, they consume it. But cricket is number one, two, three, and four in terms of most popular sports in India. So
Wow.
you try to get Adidas to give you a budget for basketball. It's like, first did they talk about cricket, second they talk about cricket, and then maybe soccer and basketball and these other things. And it's the same, and there's no structure for it. There's not like little leagues. There's not like these kind of intramural teams that people play in schools. But like I remember talking to somebody. She's like, yes, I play for the net. I play for my country. She's like 8 to maybe 17-year-old girl. She's like, I play for my country. I play, and I'm like, okay, so what position do you play? And we talk about basketball. I'm like, so what? She goes, I play defense. And I'm like, okay, so you play defense. That means like you really not really familiar with the game, right? Like, and I can tell like she didn't really know about basketball, but she uses this phrase like I play for the country, because she played in her school when she was 15 or something. And I think like that it kind of cuts off. Like there's nowhere to go after that. But we don't play basketball here to make it to the NBA. The normal person doesn't do that. If you're that good, then yes, then you start figuring that out at a maybe as you're getting better and you're growing up. But initially you're playing for what? Just to get out of the house, just to be active, just to be in some sort of organized, maybe it's like a babysitter almost, like just to do something so that you are somewhere accounted for doing something constructive. And you can see how many, the value of that in India is like is you can't even put a number on it, because there's just so many people. They're all looking for anything organized. I mean, really, we could have done like a Scrabble company, or like where we're just playing Scrabble after school, and like people would love it because it's something organized, because we're giving it attention, because we're putting high quality, we're caring about it as much as we want them to care about it. And I don't think that's valued as much, where these kinds of police athletic leagues are like actually giving people t-shirts and actually organizing something, where they have referees or they have like designated courts or some kind of structure that people can, if you give it attention, they will. And I think like that's really what this became. Is parents love it, the media loves it, kids love it, but where's the actual dollars coming from? And that becomes like a different question. Then either we're a nonprofit, or we got to somehow start selling soap, start marketing different like hydration things, like ways to get educated. Or you have to kind of, who's going to pay for this? Who's going to pay for me to do all these events and set the stage? And that becomes a different conversation when it comes to India, because a lot of the big companies I found, their budgets are dedicated to cricket and other, maybe soccer, and like Nike's like, we'll give you all the free shoes and basketballs you want, not shoes, all the basketballs you want. But when it comes to the cash, like no, like we don't have a budget for that right now. And then there's like the government itself tries to own the sport of basketball and govern where like the best players could show up, where the referees could go, what venues can open to me versus whether we have to do it through them. So trying to own the sport also detracts from like really getting official sponsorship at like the levels that we want. So yeah, it's a challenge business wise, and that's why I kind of like needed some bigger players involved, like when it comes to making it a business, not just a fun hobby. You know what I mean? And so that was kind of the idea, and really like where it still is really, to be honest, is like,
It just, to me, it just sounds like a thing where people are just, when it comes to money, it either like, yeah, like Nike said, oh, we can give you all free basketballs, but this is not anything budgeted for us right now. And then when it comes to the country, it's like we can give you the money, but we want to own it. And it's just, it sounds like there's all this either there's all this red tape or there's all these strings attached when it comes to the actual financial part of it. And I take it from what I'm hearing, that's what's holding some of these things back. Like not just with making basketball a thing, but any other thing that could become a thing within the country and really take and put the country on the map in other categories outside of things like cricket. That am I correct or?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, they're not exactly putting people in the best position to excel over there. And some of these grassroots initiatives, or these pockets that where people are, like the Dune School in Dehradun is like the best basketball coach. Like these women, the girls basketball team there is so good. I mean, the girls are better than the guys in India, no doubt, as far as like professional. And some of them really want to teach and really want to help others do like learn how to play and just organize it in a way that's a little more structured, a little bit more informed teaching of basketball or of sport, basketball specifically. And it's just they find their own challenges of like getting shut down because they're not officially, it's not affiliated, let's say, with the BFI, or affiliated with the right federal or yeah, just government body. And that gets frustrating. And so like, and the numbers don't add, like for an American like me, like if I'm coming from New York and I'm going to India, I mean, I can really stretch out the 20,000 bucks that I start a company with. I could really stretch that for like years in India, almost, right? It's a lot of quid pro quo, like you doing stuff for favors, you do it, and the money that you spend, you can really stretch it. But then try to make rupees, and you can't even buy a flight back to New York. Like you could work for a year, and like the rupees just don't add up to dollar. Like it just doesn't work. If it's a business also, it needs to be like just thought about a little bit differently, I think, in terms of actually making it a business that could make sense for an American company to do in India. Like not just use India to make products or sell to Americans, but actually provide a service or product to people in India and have it make sense as an American who's trying to also sustain themselves in dollars. It becomes a nonprofit essentially, because it's challenging. It's not because they don't have. I mean, I think there is money. It's just, yeah, it's just about hooking up with the right people. I think is definitely private money industrialists, people who are doing like amazing stuff, entrepreneurial stuff in business, who have more money than like entire community. So there's individuals, there's businesses that can help and that can sponsor it. And maybe we'll see more of that. And honestly, I think there is already more than that. It just happens in pockets, and hopefully it keeps picking up.
All right, we're back. Now, Neel, I'm going to ask you a few questions so that we can learn more about things that you've done, also a little bit more about you, and then the fun things that go along with that. So I'm going to go ahead and fire off with this first question here. The thing you are proudest of is Hoops India, which you saw as an opportunity to highlight and elevate a country that doesn't get a lot of attention beyond what is expected of it. Why do you feel it is important for entertainment and media to expand what they highlight about other countries?
Well, it broadens the appeal. I mean, if you're not going to play in a bat and you're not going to play in the league, but you're still interested in, I think there's a lifestyle to a sport, and I think entertainment brings that out. I think the culture, the off the court, from the fashion, sneakers, the rhythms, the music, slang, sweat, it's like the camaraderie. All of that is brought out through things like media and showing the game in different lights, showing other sides of the game, showing the game within the game, showing all of those things that entertainment and media bring out about a sport. So I think, yeah, it has value just to build a market and showcase a game, like, or showcase anything. You need that kind of appeal. I mean, I think that's really the value of it, is just to show it in new light and broaden the appeal. Like, just because you don't actually know how to dribble doesn't mean that you can't get interested in the people, or get interested in the shorts, or get interested in the networking opportunity like that sports offers, and like be a part of that conversation without being a player. I think entertainment media is important for that. It just ties it in too. Like if you want to really broaden the appeal, you take the best from all of those like entertainment media worlds. I mean, we had like 12 cameras, Jimmy Jip, all this stuff shooting a street ball game in India, like trying to use that entertainment like from the film world, like having these folks who are more accustomed to shooting like Indian movies, let's say, but we're shooting basketball like that. Having those kind of personalities show up at the game, talk about the game. I remember like Ranbir Kapoor being in at a Laker game. I mean, because he's at a Laker game, it like everybody can kind of get drawn in because they know Ranbir. So now he can, just put it in context a little bit. What is basketball about? What are the Lakers? What is so compelling about them from his eyes? And that's what they need. Like, so that's what India needs. Like, because they frame that story in their in ways that they relate to. They don't look like Dwight Howard, so you can't relate to him. You can't relate to that as much. But like, talk to Dwight Howard. There's this thing about Will Smith going to India and just sitting down and talking to one of the actors there. It's like that's how you get to know really Will Smith. Like not just from Will Smith, but let the India media and India entertainment like showcase Will Smith. And now you really get to know Will Smith, because sometimes it's hard to relate just looking at Kevin Garnett. It's like he doesn't look like us. You know what I mean?
Right.
So how could we ever think like we could be like him?
True. So my next question: sports can be an equalizer and a unifier. Why is it that, and how can we apply those lessons to the business world?
Yeah, it's a unifier. I think like just that networking piece. I always think about Reggie Love and President Obama is like people from he brought into his cabinet after playing pickup ball with them. And lifetime relationships are made, careers are made from a basketball pickup games, and seeing how people are off the court. I think there's that part of sports that unifies people across generations, unifies like across cultures, that common language that I think sports does, and some places need it more than others. And I think where communities are so separated, like India, it's an equal playing field. I mean, even for me, Indian kid growing up here in New York, it's like the respect that I get is because I could dribble, right? Like now I get respect on the court. Now I make a new friend. Now I'm like, all right, I feel a little bit better about myself growing up. So I think it's a way to integrate people. It's a way to for people to find themselves. I mean, the whole idea here is that like we want to put people in positions like just as a human. Like I wanna see what's best about you, and see what's best. Like what can I do to put you in the best position, so that I could see the true side of you, or I could bring that out of you. Or if I'm a teacher, like that's the best thing, right? Is to see what makes somebody tick. Well, sometimes it's like you got to take them out of the office, or take them out of the classroom, and you see what they can do on the court, or you see what they do in a team environment, or you see how they support each other, and those types of things. Like they find themselves, and they find what they're good at, and they find their purpose. And I think that kind of non-formal education is huge. Is huge for us to just find our path. And I know for me, sports has been huge, and I think obviously like for others. So yeah, it's one of those things like it unifies people across generations. Like across, like you could just talk about the game. You could talk about like you talk to your people older than you about how it used to, about the
Right.
same kind of concepts, and
Hmm.
it's that kind of cycle that repeats. That the season comes around again. It's that constant that's there. That I think just the same way like you could say the sun and the moon unify us. You know what I mean? It's always there. It's like it's there, and we always talk about the same thing. So, I mean, the concepts are the same. So I think like that in itself is good. Like when there's that kind of format and rule structure, it's a good test for like normal life. Like the NBA bubble, right? When during the pandemic, it's like what the NBA did. That was a great kind of almost like a blueprint, or you could at least say a pilot or experiment of like what works as far as like sports during this time. And I think in so many ways it reflects what's happening in society and in communities, and it helps people get that out in constructive ways and have those conversations on level playing fields. I think it's also just the way they measure it. Like, you can just see anything you measure, you get better at. I feel like in sports is something that you always try to be better. And we just would like use that mentality to anything we do.
I agree. I certainly agree with that. So you started Hoops India during the recession, a time when most people would probably suggest safety. How were you able to see past the upheaval of the time you were in to an opportunity that was attainable?
Well, for me, it was like create the job that I want. Like I wasn't going to get a job, here running an and one tour across the country. Like, and so I think like the opportunities here were just really not exciting, not available, not along the lines of things I want to do. So it was really like a easier choice, right? Because it's like I could stretch the money in India better. There's like all these things against like the job market and just my career where the opportunities here. So a good time to kind of step away from it all here and try to explore some of these things that I've been wanting to do or thinking about. So for me, it was kind of easy to go to New York, to New Delhi, and kind of use my 401k money and like start doing these things because it's like, well, I wasn't missing anything here. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
uh, that made it a lot easier.
Yeah, totally understand. My final question, how has the information age and our access to content reshaped media? Do you see it as a globalization or homogenizing or entertainment and media?
I mean, I think the access to information gives just more people an opportunity to get involved in the sport. I think it is a sport though, so it's a physical thing. Like it's not just writing about it. Like people, you do want to actually get out and play. So
Right.
the access to the information, I think like yes, you can't, but you can't learn karate from a book. You have to actually do this kind of thing. You have to play, and that's the value of it. So I think yes, you can learn from things. You can kind of see what's happening, but I mean, if you're talking about India and the access that people have there, I think it's good, but it's not. It's good just in terms of it piques curiosity. It gets people talking about it in new ways, but the news cycle is moving so quickly there. It's like you can get the information, but what are you going to do with it? I think that's really it's not as critical. Like, it's not like they don't necessarily know about it. Is anybody helping to make it happen for that? Is anybody organizing it? Is anybody giving it any attention or value offline? It doesn't hurt, obviously. I just feel like in some ways access to information is really changed the game. I don't know how much, like as far as basketball in India, how much access to information online has changed the game.
Understood. Well, thank you, Neel, for taking time out of your schedule to come on the SANE Show. I really appreciate it. And I also really appreciate you offering the insight that you were able to offer today about India and about globalization of sports and the also basketball. So really appreciate that. Gave me a lot to think about, and I hope you, the listeners, also think about some of these things as well, because this is really something worth thinking about too. And again, very insightful. You definitely helped enlighten me a little bit and gave me some things to think about. So thank you for coming on and sharing your experience with us.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. It's so feels so good to express some of this, a little bit of lessons learned.
Cool deal. Cool deal. Definitely have to have you back on the same show at some point in the future. Listeners, thank you guys for listening again. Continue to like, share, subscribe to the SANE Show, and spread the word across the world. And you guys are listening to the SANE Show, the show about nothing and everything. And until next time, we're out.